I'll help you if you want. That'd be nice. Really the only thing that stops me from playing games is like the price tag. I've had a couple of, I've literally had two mates offer to play Phasmophobia with me. I just have to like buy the game. And until my lease gets finalized, I don't know. It's $15. Hey man, I live off $200 a month. Like all the rest of my money goes to bills. $200 for food and public transport. That's literally me. So like, yeah. Oof, yeah, it's not great, but it's manageable. It's manageable. Yeah. It's not great, but it's manageable. Like I get by. I get by. Until next year when I finish my when I finish my course, then I'll be able to like actually have an income. If it's livable, it's okay. Yeah, that's what I think. That's my like. I'm not. I shouldn't. My idea is like, I don't work. I'm a full-time student, right? They shouldn't encourage this sort of lifestyle too much. Like if I'm living like an absolute king, what incentive do I have to get a job? You know, you have to have like a livable standard. But to thrive, they shouldn't, like the government shouldn't be giving me enough money to like live and thrive. It just shouldn't work like that. It encourages like me not getting a job. They want people to get a job, so they give them the amount that is only necessary. Right? You have to actively want more things, thus more money, thus you should get a job. Like it's completely fine. I'm completely fine with it. I understand why it's like that. $200 is enough to get by, and that's the way it should be. I like food stamps and COVID unemployment. Essentially, yeah. Well, I mean, we don't do food stamps in Australia. We just get a some amount of money a fortnight, and we can spend that money however we want. They were gonna roll out food stamps like 10 years ago or something, but the backlash from like pensioners and stuff, like people that were on these sorts of incomes were like really vocal, and they didn't end up doing it. But yeah, the only reason why I'm not working is because I'm a full-time student. So in Australia you can get benefits if you're a full-time student. So like if you're in school the same hours as you would for a full-time job, it's classed as essentially the same thing, so they will pay you. Not necessarily like fees of a full-time job, but they will give you enough money to get by. And that's where I'm at. Which, like I said, not complaining. Not complaining. I think the way they do their thing is like fair. It's not enough money to like make it worthwhile to like not get a job. If anything, you earn more money with a job. Yeah, it's cool. It's like I have my heater going this whole time. It's fair. I think it's fair. Australia always has encouraged people to get an education because education helps the country in the long run. The more people with higher paying jobs, the better it looks for Australia. You know, the more doctors we have, the better. So that's how they incentivize it. But they don't incentivize it to the point where it's like a livable income. Like there's no way I'm supporting a family off like being a full-time student. There's no way. Like I'm sure there's people that could, but there's no way I could. So it's enough money to incentivize getting a job, but just enough money. Better than the US? I mean, the US have a greater population than we do, and the US pays less tax as well. So it's just like, it's a different system for a completely different country. Australia has a very small population in comparison to the US. We have significantly more taxes. To buy a house in Australia is like 2 or 3 times more expensive than it is for the US. So they're two different, and we have two different governing systems. We're still part of the monarchy. The US is a democratic something or other, and we all both have elections, but they're different sort of governments that run the place. It's like they're two very different things. You know. Like I wouldn't be opposed to food stamps. So the big thing is like, because we get a lump sum every fortnight, right? People can spend it however they want, and there is there is people that would just like spend that money on gambling, right? It's a thing. At least with food stamps, the government knows exactly where the money's going, and I think that's a better idea than how they're currently doing it. But like I said before, there was a lot of backlash when the government tried to move into that food stamp sort of territory that it just sort of like never ended up materializing. But when they put the money into your account, that money is yours. Like you can do whatever you want with it. You're supposed to use it in a proper way, but like, yeah, it's literally just a lump sum of money. I think food stamps are actually better, in all honesty, just because it stops people from using the money and using it in the wrong way. Like some people have kids they have to provide for, and they can easily just take that money and gamble it away instead of spending it on their kids. You know, food stamps sort of prevent that. Good old Margaret. What an absolute Chad. Then all of Australia? Yeah. Like, it's not even close, man. The population size isn't even close. We have, if it wasn't for Alaska, we would have, like, very similar, like, land. Like, same size of land if it wasn't for Alaska. Is it Alaska? Yeah, I think it is. But, like, you guys not only have more population, you have more, like, livable land. Half of Australia, nearly 2/3 of Australia is actually a desert. It's basically unlivable. The majority of Australia live around the coast as well. So it's like, we don't really have as much livable land, nor do we have, like, the population size. Even if we did. Can this guy get off my nuts? Yeah. I think the fact that because we're smaller than the US, we can do things a little bit differently. Like, if the US tried to implement, like, Australia's policies, it wouldn't have the same effect. It's on a much larger scale, completely different type of community mindset, completely different culture. Like, you couldn't implement it. Like, Australia had a gun buyback. We don't necessarily have guns in Australia. Every police officer in Australia has a gun on their hip. And if you want to get a gun, it's ridiculously hard. So what Australia did in like the late 90s is we had a huge buyback and the government just bought all our guns. You couldn't do that in the US. There's no way. There would be another civil war. Like, they're just two different communities, two different population sizes. It's not like I wouldn't say it's not possible. I just would say it wouldn't work as well or at all. Like, you could implement any policies you want. I think the Nazis proved that. No matter how gruesome those policies were, you can pretty much do what you want in the grand scheme of things. It's just whether it will have the intended effect is completely up in the air. I don't think it's the case. This guy actually cured himself of scarlet rot. Yeah. He literally just cured himself of scarlet rot. Oh, I got raw dumpling meat. Nice. Like, from what I understand, the food step system isn't really liked by Americans in general, but I think it's one of those cases where the minority make it worse for the majority. Because if a minority of people take advantage of a lump sum every fortnight, like, nobody can be trusted. And that's why I like the food stamp. Food stamp idea, at least. Because, you know, the government knows exactly where the money's going and makes sure that it goes towards food instead of people gambling it away, like they can in Australia. Not saying everybody does. I'm just saying it is possible that you could get a check for, I don't know, if you have a kid, you might get a check for like $1,500 or something. Not even a check. It goes directly into your bank account. And there's nothing preventing you from just spending it all. Like, and I'm more than certain that some people would do that. More than certain. And like maybe we could talk about like some people will get food stamps instead of that blank sum. Um, and you know, maybe that would work, but that comes under discrimination, saying that this person can't be trusted with money. Like that's literally discrimination. And you can't do that. So you can't even do it by a case by case basis. Yep. That's pretty much the state of things. Ooh, a dragon. A dragon, ladies and gentlemen. It's the wrong tower.